So I have an SM465 with the second gear synchro stuck, so it always goes forward. Don't have any other gears, so I'm gonna tear it apart and see what's wrong with it. So I did some digging around. I put it in fourth gear and tried to spin it, and it wouldn't let me spin. I put it in third, same thing, and I put it in second, same thing. So I'm thinking first gear might be stuck. So I'm gonna tear that apart and see exactly why it got stuck. Okay, so I got the main shaft out. And when I was looking at it, second gear was fine. It rotated freely, same with the synchro. Third gear rotated fine along with the synchro, didn't have any issues with that. But when I got to the first gear, when I took it out, the first gear is supposed to come off. It's supposed to be free floating, and it didn't. And I can't rotate first gear on the shaft. Tried tapping it with the mallet and it's not coming off, so I'm probably gonna have to get a puller to be able to pull it off and then see what the damage is. Okay, so I got a puller kit, and when I went to go use the longest jaws, it didn't clear just enough to be annoying. So what I had to do was draw a new jaw and go get that sent off to get cut to be able to pull this gear off. And the reason I have to pull this gear off is between 66 or 68 to 77, GM used the 20 thousandths shorter bushing, and 78 to 91 they use the 20 thousandths larger bushing, which would mean the difference between a flat washer and a step washer. And when I put this together in the kit, it only came with the shorter washer, the shorter bushing, which is the same one as the second gear bushing. And I ended up using the flat washer instead of the stepped washer, and that ended up pushing up against the face of the gear, which ended up jamming it against the 1-2 hub and the back of the bearing. And with the step washer, it'll go inside and ride along the bushing and not the face of the gear, which will give you about 4 to 12 thousandths clearance is what the book is calling for. So once I get the new jaws, I'll be able to pull this off and tear the rest of it apart and see if I have to replace the gear and replace the 1-2 hub. Just got my new jaws set up, and you can see with the old one how it's not even close to touching first gear. So now I'm gonna see how much this thing is gonna fight me. So I'm about halfway off, and now it's getting real easy to turn. Ended up having to use some vice grips to help hold this onto the table so I don't have to use two hands. So got first gear off. I'm looking at the first gear bushing. It's pretty chewed up. There's a big old groove in it. And that groove ended up putting metal inside of the first gear. So I'm gonna have to get a new gear. And then looking at the 1-2 hub, it's not horrible, doesn't catch your nail. So I'm gonna take this bushing off, clean this shaft up one more time, and then put the new bushing on and put it back in the case. Got the main shaft cleaned up, and I got a new first gear. It spins freely, same with every other gear. Second, that's third. And the problem I was having with the first generation of SM465s is the face of the gear would stick past the bearing and the face of the main shaft. So I'd have to use a step washer instead of the flat washer. And what that step does is it'll sit inside of the bore of first gear to give you clearance. And that little bit of clearance in between the gear and the washer is what caused this gear to seize onto the bushing. So I'm gonna finish putting this back together and put it back in the case. So I got it mostly put back together. I went to go test it and everything's spinning free. There's no binding. You can hold each gear. You're able to spin it like before. And you can engage each gear without them getting stuck. So I'll finish putting this back together.